guys, it's Dawn and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week's book review is a day late, so sorry about that, but today I'm going to be giving you a book review of Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Before I actually get into the review, I do want to say that the majority of the review will be spoiler free. However, at the end I do want to discuss the ending of the book because I have some issues with it, so at that point I'll warn you guys and tell you to click away if you don't want to hear spoilers. But other than that bit at the end, everything I will be discussing is spoiler free. Also, observe, I have some little tabs in here, not as many as I would have liked because I very unwisely didn't stick them in as I was reading, so I only could stick in what I could remember and find easily afterwards, but there will be some examples of writing style issues I have and that sort of thing. So prepare for that. My daughter is playing with her toy kitchen in her bedroom, so if you hear like clanging of metal, it's her little pots and pans she's playing with, so sorry about that. Let's start off with a brief blurb about the book. Our main character is Scarlett, a young woman who is the daughter to a governor of a small island. I think it's like on the edge of an empire or something like that, but he's the governor of an island. He has his two daughters, Scarlett, the main character, and Donatella, her sister, who I think is a year or two younger. The mother is absent in this situation. She, I guess, ran away years before. I'm assuming because the father is super abusive and terrible, which is one of the main conflicts of the story, how terrible he is, how abusive he is, etc. So for years and years prior to the events in the story, Scarlett has really wanted to go to this event called Caraval, which is an annual competition that takes place in like a magical carnival type thing. She's wanted to go for a very long time, but it's never traveled near them or to their island. I guess she and Donatella have never left their island, so they've never had a chance to go. But this year she receives 3 tickets from Legend, the guy who is the master of the carnival, and so she really wants to go. Of course, she knows her father would never let her go, so she and Donatella have to run away. Scarlett is kind of pulled into it against her own will because initially after getting the tickets, she decides it's a bad idea to go. On a side note, sorry, the plot's all over the place, but Scarlett is engaged to someone she's never met. He's like a duke or a lord from some other part of this empire, and she's never met him, and so she's afraid that going to Caraval so close to when her wedding is going to happen is going to get her in trouble and risk her engagement and marriage. This is so convoluted. I'm explaining it really poorly. But anyways, they leave the island, she and her sister, along with this sailor guy named Julian, and they go to Caraval. And when they arrive at Caraval, her sister goes missing, and Scarlett finds out that the game this year is to find her missing sister, and the prize for whoever does find Donatella is a wish. So that's the premise of the story. Scarlett's trying to find her sister. She's got this guy Julian tagging along with her. There you go. Oh my gosh, that made no sense. So I don't even know where to begin with this book. I honestly have some mixed feelings about it. Right off the bat, I can say that I really did not enjoy the first half of the book, which is a really bad sign. I probably would have DNF'd it if it hadn't been a book that I borrowed from someone and felt like I really wanted to read and give a chance before I gave it back to them. So in another situation, if I had just picked this up on my own from the library or something, I don't think I would have finished it. My general rule of thumb is when I hit 100 pages, if I'm not super interested or invested in the story, I don't finish the book. But I did finish the book, so I'm here to tell you my many feelings about it. I will say that even though I didn't like the first half of the book, it actually got better in the second half, and I would say that the first part of the ending was satisfying. However, I didn't like the final conclusion of the book. If you've read it, that might make some sense. If you haven't, sorry, I can't explain that more without any spoilers, but first half was boring, second half of the book got better, the ending was good, and then concluded in a disappointing way. One of the biggest issues in this book, I think, is that it didn't feel like the events connected. Everything was too convenient and just sort of following one after another without any real meaningful or believable transition. Everything was just sort of handed to the main character, and I just personally don't care for that. I like them to work for it. I like things to follow in a logical order and to actually lead one to another, rather than just have events happen because they are supposed to happen. Another one of my big issues with this book is I never cared about Scarlet. I didn't connect with her. I didn't find her believable or relatable. I also just did not care about her finding Donatella. You only really see Donatella at the very beginning of the book, so you don't get time to get to know her, and she seems like kind of a brat, honestly, for what you're shown of her. She's not a likable person, so it's like when she goes missing and suddenly the book's all about finding her, you don't care because you don't like her. Like, there's no reason to care. And then there's the romance. And let me just say, the romance, because it is just the quintessential, poorly developed, just hard to believe young adult romance. I felt almost no chemistry from Miss Scarlet and Julian. I thought that Julian was unlikable. There was nothing redeeming about him, nothing that might, make her like him other than the fact that he was physically attractive. That was it. That was the only chemistry, just physical attraction. And it's not compelling. It just isn't. And then every romantic interaction between them was so forced and so tropey. Like at the beginning of the book, when they first get to Caraval, she's having him pose as her fiance because I guess the third ticket was meant for her fiance. So he's posing as her fiance, so they're only given one room. Ooh, scandal. It's so forced and it's so cheesy. And every romantic interaction they have in the book is like that, where it feels like the author just pulled a trope that she liked and threw it in the book. Also, the pacing was terrible. Without giving away too much, the Caraval event was supposed to be over 5 days, and I think the author didn't have enough material to cover those days. So she ended up having something happen where 2 days were lost. Like, it's hard to explain because I don't want to ruin it for you if you're going to read it, but it goes from 5 days to effectively 3 days. And it's incredibly stupid. Like, if you didn't have enough material to fill 5 days, why not cut it down to 3 days and just get rid of the weird plot device you threw in there? The last thing I'll talk about before I jump into the spoiler part where I talk about the ending that I have so many feelings about, I want to give you a couple examples of her writing style, which I've heard a lot of people talk about this. I've seen a lot of people write about it on Goodreads. It's pretty well acknowledged that she puts way too many metaphors and analogies and similes in her book, and they're all super cheesy and they don't make any sense. They carry no meaning and they add nothing to the story, and honestly, they're so cheesy sometimes that they distract you as a reader and pull you out of the story, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do as a writer. So just a couple examples, and full disclosure, this could be super nitpicky. You could totally disagree with me. That's fine. This is just my own personal preference. Here's one. But unlike the sailor, this young man was made of polished boots and neatly tied back hair. That's a really weird way to say that he was wearing polished boots and neatly tied back hair. And that is two very specific parts of his outfit on his feet and on his head. So how can he be made of that if it's one's here and one's down here? It doesn't make much sense, and it's just an awkward sentence. Here's another one. Scarlet's just walked into a room that's been totally ransacked and destroyed. Feathers covered the carnage, as if a rebel angel had gone mad. It's a powerful image, but it's incredibly out of place here. There are no angels in this story. Why is it specifically a rebel angel? To me, that was just the most cheesy way to describe the fact that pillows and the mattress were torn open in this bedroom and the feathers were everywhere. You could have explained that, but why did you have to say it was a rebel angel went mad? Really weird. Really specific. I don't care for it. Here's another one. The author actually used this one really frequently, and it started to drive me crazy. She slid into a pair of silver slippers before spinning around in her periwinkle dress, the color of sweet dreams and happy endings. So once again, it's just nonsense words. It would be fine if it was one time in the book she used the color of blank and blank and it wasn't actually something that has color, it's something abstract. But she uses over and over again, which just comes across as kind of amateurish when you use repetition of very specific phrases and expressions like this. So I don't know. I personally think it's a bad idea to do that in your writing. Also, what does that even mean? Like, honestly. Also, can we talk about her father's weird perfume? I don't understand why it had to be this specific combination of scents. Like, there's anise and lavender. Those kind of make sense. Anise isn't super common. Like, I think this is the first time I've ever seen, like, someone mentioning an anise perfume. Maybe I don't have a lot of perfume. Maybe I'm just redneck. That could be it, honestly. But the third scent, I kid you not, I quote, and something akin to rotted plums. Rotted plums, not just plums. Rotted plums. Like, who really is going into the perfume store and goes up to, like, the cashier or whoever, the attendant, and is like, hey, I want some perfume. Can you make it smell like rotted fruit? That's what I want to smell like. Rotted fruit. That is my ideal scent. That's how I'm gonna get the ladies. Like, really? Like, I get that it has a really strong smell and it's, like, memorable and whatever. And, like, whenever the father pops up in the book, she always mentions the freaking perfume. That's the first thing that makes Scarlet, I forgot her name, that makes Scarlet know that her father is coming. He's here. Who really is wearing a perfume of rotted plums? Like, what? In all fairness, this is personal preference. A lot of people like purple prose. They like flowery descriptions. They like metaphors and similes and analogies that don't quite make sense but just sound pretty, and that's fine. It's just my personal preference is something a little more straightforward. It can be beautiful, but it needs to make sense, and flowery, paragraphs and descriptions, whatever, they need to have a purpose in the story and not just be there for their own sake. But that could be a totally unpopular opinion, and I recognize that and acknowledge it. So that wraps up the spoiler-free part of my review, which means I'm going to be diving into talking about the ending. So obviously there will be spoilers from this point forward. So if you don't want to hear those, bye. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. If the camera angle changed slightly, it's because my daughter thought it would be super funny to knock over the tripod. So that was fun. Anyways, let's talk about this ending because I have some rather strong feelings about it. So I actually liked the scene where Scarlet is in that kind of balcony room with Tella, and then Legend comes in and there's all that drama and the father's there, and then Tella dramatically jumps off the balcony. Like, I actually enjoyed that scene, which I was surprised because I didn't care about Tella up until that point. So honestly, I thought that scene was good. I felt the tension. I cared about what was going to happen. I felt the emotional, aftermath of Tella falling to her death, and then, Scarlet going down there and crying over her sister and trying to heal her with that weird, like, finger prick blood thing that she did with Julian, which I thought was kind of weird anyways earlier, but that's beside the point. My issue is not with that whole sequence, because it was fine. It's with how just, like, convenient and tidy the conclusion was, where, Scarlet's devastated, Julian's been killed, Tella's dead, and everything's so sad, but then none of that actually happened. It did, but it didn't, because magically her love brought Tella back to life, because that's all you need for a wish. It's not that you can actually win a wish from Legend, it's that love can grant you a wish, which, okay, I guess. So the sheer act of Scarlet loving her sister so much that she would have been willing to die for her, even though she didn't have to die for her, was enough to save Tella and bring her back from the dead. That was the wish. That's how the wish happened, and it was really stupid. That's too convenient. There was no real sacrifice on Scarlet's part, or Tella's technically, I guess, because she just knew she was going to come back to life. I don't know. I just thought it was dorky and too convenient and anticlimactic too, because you have all the emotional stuff of her falling down and the crying and stuff, and then she just, like, waltzes in and she's like, hey y'all, I lived. Okay, congrats. And then of course we couldn't have any actual consequences in the story, so because Julian turns out to be one of the actors in Caraval, he's also not dead, so that's just great. And also, after everything he put Scarlet through and being kind of a douche and lying to her the entire game, she forgives him a little too easily, in my opinion. And honestly, that ending scene where they're like having the after party with the actors was so dorky and forced and cheesy. Like, she walks in and is nervous to see him again, and then they just chat for a second, and then everything's fine and they're in love again, and it's great, even though she doesn't actually know him. Anyways, I hate the ending. I finished this book and I was like, really? Really? That's how it ended? And then the only way the author can think to make us even care about the second book is she puts in a letter at the very end being like, Donatella, hey, it's Legend. Remember, you promised me something in exchange for my help, so stay tuned for book 2 for when you owe me that favor. In conclusion, I didn't hate this book. I thought it was annoying at times, but at the same time, the author's not terrible. Like, she's got talent. There were some fun moments. The writing isn't horrible, even though the metaphors almost killed me. But yeah, I think she has a lot of potential. If she publishes something outside of this universe, separate from Carnival, I might give it a try, but I will definitely not be picking up the second book because I still don't care about Scarlet. I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah, those are my thoughts. If I had to give this a star review, which I realized I forgot to do in my last, 2 book reviews, sorry about that, I think I would give this a 2.5. You know, it's a solid young adult novel. It's not special. It's got flaws. I am not going to read the sequel, but I don't think it's terrible. Yeah, 2.5, it's fine. If you like young adult fiction, you like competitions, you like intrigue and romance, that all is interesting to you, you'd probably enjoy this. You know, if you like flower language, you like purple prose, you like whimsical kind of magic and world building, yeah, this might be fun for you. So I can recommend it if those are your preferences. But if you're like me and you just occasionally dabble in young adult because you want to know what's popular, give this one a pass. Just my opinion. Anyways, I'm going to stop this review here. Hopefully none of what I said offends anyone. I don't want you to take anything personally. This is literally my opinion. It doesn't matter. The purpose of a book review is never to bash a particular book or author. It's really just to let people with similar tastes and interests to you know if a book is worth their time. That is it. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just these were my opinions, and if you are similar to me, you trust my opinion, then hopefully this is helpful to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you want to see more book reviews from me or writing related content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you've read Caraval, let me know what you think down in the comments, especially if you liked it, because I'm curious to hear why you liked it, and maybe it'll help me understand the book better and be a little more nice about it and not be such a grumpy old woman, because seriously, I think that's what I'm becoming. Anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing week, and as always, happy reading. Bye.